Hello everyone, it's Courtney from the CBK Lookbook, and I'm here today to discuss in my parents' very 90s basement, a very 90s show that's coming out. American Love Story premieres on, I thought it came out on Valentine's Day. I was wrong. It comes out on February 12th, which is this Thursday, which if you're watching this in real time is in two days from now. Okay, so first of all, please like, comment, and subscribe to get this video some algorithmic juice. And we're just gonna jump into talking about the trailer. So I was kind of hesitant as to if I wanted to actually watch the trailer or not, if I just like kind of wanted to go into it blind. Sorry, I haven't been down here in a while. And I saw the thumbnail and I was like, wow, this looks really cool. So I went ahead and I watched it. So it came out about a week ago. And I have to say, this show looks really sexy. And I know this seems like a silly comment, but it looks like it's going to be a really sexy show. And I had my doubts because Ryan Murphy was kind of being a jerk about it. And and the fashion was all off. But now that I've seen the trailer, I have a lot of hope. And I think I've decided that I'm going to turn off the brain that says, well, what about this? What about, and anyway, this wasn't really like blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to watch it. I'm just going to try to watch it, and I am going to share my thoughts about it. Why should you listen to me? Well, you don't have to. I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of people reacting to this. I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to play any video because I don't really know if Disney is like a takedown kind of copyright channel. So I'm just going to put up stills and we will just have to work with what we're working with because I don't want my content taken down. I don't want to deal with Disney. Anyway, so why should you listen to me? One, I had a 90s nostalgia blog for like 5 years. It was called Can't Hardly Dress, and I wrote about Carolyn Bessette a lot. And then I was like, well, I really like Carolyn Bessette. And then in my undiagnosed ADHD brain, I'm like, maybe I should start a blog about Carolyn Bessette. So I started the blog CBK Lookbook, where I've written about a lot of her fashion, and I've read a lot about her life and JFK Jr.'s life. And I just find Carolyn specifically to be a very interesting figure. A lot of people are like, why do people like her? I don't know why I like her. Why does anyone like anyone? I don't know. I just do, okay? I like Carolyn Bessette. I want to talk about Carolyn Bessette. Leave me alone, okay? Just let me go and enjoy my show. Okay, so right off the bat, I am also, I sell vintage clothing. I've been selling vintage clothing for about a decade. I got laid off from my job. Hey, AI, thanks for stealing my job. Right after I had a kid. Wow, what a life. And I just decided to go back into selling vintage clothing. So that's what I do for work. So I know a lot about fashion. I wouldn't say I'm a historian, although maybe like an amateur historian. Anyway, so I know a lot about fashion as well. And right off the bat, one of the things that my fashion brain wants to talk about is this whole idea of like the fashion being wrong. So I saw the trailer and I actually had a thought I hadn't really thought of before now, although like I guess I should have had this thought before now. Okay, so in fashion there's a style called like 90s does 50s, 90s does 60s, 90s does 70s, and it was basically the take in the 90s on the previous decades. And it kind of dawned on me why this show doesn't need to be historically accurate, because we are far, in terms of the fashion, we are far enough away from the 90s now that the 90s was from the 60s and the 70s. So we are 30 years removed from when Carolyn Bessette even, like went to New York City. I think she moved there in like the late 80s. So we are now officially in the same timeline that 90s does 60s, 90s to 70s was a fashion thing in the 90s. So hear me out. This show should not be historically accurate. And the reason why is because Carolyn Bessette, like it or not, say what you want about her, she was an exception in the 90s. The majority of people did not dress like her. A lot of people did, but if they had to put all the extras into true 90s fashion and everyone else into true 90s fashion, this show would be not as watchable, because 90s fashion, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it, a lot of it was bad. All right, I didn't make any of these clothes, but I've sold a lot of things, I've seen a lot of things, I've handled a lot of clothing. A lot of it was bad. You don't want to see shoulder pads, you don't want to see rayon linen blends. It was bad. Okay, Carolyn And the fashionable people in New York City, like high-end fashion people, they were the exception. They were not the rule. So the clothing they would have to put all the extras in would, I think, would just bring it down, to be honest. So I am keeping an open mind to the 2020s does 90s idea. And I'll be honest, I think they did a great job. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I did watch this trailer, so it's not a true reaction. So sorry. While we're on the topic of fashion, another thing I have to say is that they better have gotten the Calvin Klein logo correct, because the Calvin Klein logo was slightly different in the 90s, and I really hope they did their research, and I really hope this logo is correct. The kerning on the K and the C was different than it was in the 2000s and from what it is today. So, all right, so JFK running on the treadmill, I'm here for it. I think this actor is hot. Who is this guy? I should know this, but listen, I am a busy lady. I think he looks hot. I think she looks hot. I think the show is going to work. They were both two very hot people. Say what you want about Carolyn. I have people in my comments saying, she was so ugly. No, she wasn't. Objectively speaking, no, she wasn't. They're two very hot people, and these are two very hot actors, and that's why I think this is going to be a very sexy show. And another thing about 90s fashion, 90s menswear, listen me or don't, I didn't like it. I think the suits that they put in him as 2020 does 90s way better than actual 90s suits. And he was wearing like the best of the best. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's the shoulders. I don't like the shoulders. This is going to be a difficult show to get through because it's kind of like you just want to say, well, actually, that's not what beach waves in the 90s looked like. Carolyn got her beach waves by wearing her hair in a bun to bed. She didn't have like, gonna let it go. All right, so the way they met, they have it in the show like they met at an event. It's possible. If I recall correctly from Once Upon a Time, Elizabeth Beller's book about Carolyn, I don't think anyone knows exactly when they met. Okay, listen, I've lived in New York City. I've been young. If I had to guess, they probably were at some of the same parties, rubbing the same shoulders. They probably got introduced a few times, and then, I think it was like they met, and then like years later, they started dating. They're young. They're in their 20s. Let them have their fun. You know what's really sweet about this show is like, I went to school in New York City, and I was younger than Carolyn was before she went to New York, because she went to New York after she went to college. But I just remember like that feeling of like being in love in New York City. It's just like so special. And I think this show, from what I've seen on the trailer, it captures it really sweetly. I think this is going to be a really sweet, a really sexy show. I wonder, did the Kennedys allow them to film at the house in Hyannisport? We'll see. I don't know for sure. All right, on this point, a happy couple doesn't sell papers. Yes, and also they have a fairly volatile relationship and had public fights. So, a little bit of reality, a little bit of, yes, they wanted to sell papers. I think there's a really sweet mixture of like images and scenes that we've seen with our own eyes from paparazzi photos. Unfortunately, I don't think it's right the way they were followed, but it's what we have and it's what remains. And I think there's like a really nice mix in this trailer of like, things that actually happen versus like Ryan Murphy's creation of the story. And I think what we have to remember at the end of the day is, one, this isn't a documentary. This is a fantasy. It's kind of a rendition of someone's life, but it's also not a reality show. Like, these people can't tell their own story. And then 3, we have to remember that like they never really spoke publicly on their relationship. So we don't know how they felt about any of the tumultuous versions. They didn't talk about it. So this is just kind of Ryan Murphy's vision of what their relationship was and like his teams. And we have to remember that it's the story. It's a fictional story based on reality. Let's just be real. Let's just say what it is. We don't know how these people felt. We can't ask them. That's the biggest thing. We can't say, hey, how are you feeling? Or like, what do you wish you would have done different? There's no that. They are gone. It's tragic. But we have to acknowledge that at the end of the day, this is a TV show. Okay? So people are going to get mad. They're going to be angry about the show. And I have to admit that I was really skeptical going into this. But now that I've seen the trailer, I quite like it. I think it's a really interesting blend of what we saw from the paparazzi photos and what, you know, is being created to fill in the blanks. Dang, ain't that the truth? So, I don't know who that was supposed to be, but an older woman with blonde hair said, "You will never be given the benefit of the doubt ever again." And ain't that the truth? Because I've seen people drag this woman for like, it's going on 30 years now, like, and she's not even alive. Like, oh, God. Honestly, I feel like really sad watching this trailer too. Like, I feel like it's a really heartbreaking story. They were the first people to really be hounded in this way, in my opinion, by the modern press. And, you know, I was trying to think of like what you can even compare it to today, because like nowadays, like people call the paparazzi to follow them. And she was hounded, and it was a dichotomy between like JFK was raised under this massive spotlight, probably like the biggest spotlight of the world, and she was just like a woman from Connecticut who did well in fashion. And like, I mean, obviously there was sparks between them and they had a beautiful relationship that had a lot of ups and downs. At least that's how I look at it. You can look at it however you want. I'm not saying it was a healthy relationship. I'm not saying anyone should aspire to have this type of relationship. That's another thing that worries me about the show. Like, I kind of wonder if people will like idealize their relationship. One, we weren't in it. We don't know. Two, there were a lot of public moments of, you know, things they probably wish weren't public. And, you know, allegations, rumors of cheating. And I do feel bad for them because they never really got to finish their story, and now it's kind of up to us to make of it what we will. I think it's a very tragic story. I think it looks very sexy, like sexy beginnings, you know, when you're meeting your lover in New York City and there's all this magic in the air and you're young and you're hot and they're both like super, I don't care, say whatever you want. They're both super sexy, okay? And you know, I think it looks like a really sweet show with a lot of really sweet and sexy moments. And I think, you know, Ryan Murphy is a master at capturing tragedy. Hello, American Horror Story Asylum, anyone? And I think that it's gonna really encapsulate a lot of emotions that a lot of TV shows don't. That's my opinion. I was like, listen, I was skeptical going into this. I saw that. I changed my mind. Okay, I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I'm hopeful. I feel, you know, a little bit skeptical still. I'm going to try in my mind to not say, well, but really in the 90s they did blah, 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 because that's how my brain is. If it sounds annoying, welcome to my mind. And I'm just going to try to go into it with an open mind. I'm feeling, like I said, hopeful, and I think it's going to be good. But there's one fear I have. My one fear is that he's going to open the show with a plane crash. And if he does that, I'm not going to be happy, because I think that's disrespectful and super tragic. And I don't really want to spend my time watching a show that's like, oh, let's just focus on how terrible everything was. Because life is hard enough. I just want a little 90s escapism. All right. Well, thanks for watching. And like I said, please like, comment, and subscribe, and all the YouTubey things. We're officially at over 500 subscribers, which I'm super psyched about. And I hope you come back. We will do another video after the first episode airs. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.